Hello, welcome to another episode of the Manufacturing Leaders Podcast with me, Mark Bracknell, Managing Director of Theo James Recruitment. Today, welcome Andrew Hewitson, who's the co-founder of Reproflex3 in Newcastle. This was a really enjoyable conversation, super easy, flowed really naturally, and there's loads of takeaways. We go right back to 27 years ago when Andrew formed the business with his business partner Trevor. We talk in detail about how the business was formed, the vision, the purpose, and pretty much how that hasn't changed through 27 years of business. I love the fact he talks in detail about that being the absolute DNA, the DNA of the business of passion, belief, and driving forward. We talk about working through difficult situations, building businesses in recessions, COVID, Brexit, times where other businesses are perhaps frozen or gone backwards. They have, as a business, have driven forward and had two of the most successful times in business, showing that looking for opportunities in difficult situations proves how important that is. And he's such a passionate and driven person, you're going to really enjoy and so many lessons to learn. So sit back, grab a coffee. Please like, subscribe to the channel. I say the more people do that, the more it drives me to get people like Andrew on the show so we can all learn lessons. So hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you very much. Andrew, welcome to the podcast. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to this and looking forward to digging into a journey of what a wonderful journey and the business you've built, which I can't wait to pick through. But first things first, question I asked everyone as soon as we start: what does it mean to you to be a leader?
Okay then. So to be a leader, I think first of all, personally, sharing a vision and a desire to do things better with a load of people and working and finding those people to work together with to solve a problem. I think that's something really special. Of course, there's some thresholds that you have to, let's say, learn to adapt with. But I think to get going, you have to be quite determined and dogged that the vision that you create and the people that you, let's say, start the business with. And I did. I started with two partners. I currently have one partner. But the vision that we had right at the start is unanimous. The DNA inside of the business. You have to be sort of dogged and determined to battle your way through all of the challenges that, of course, everybody wants to put in front of you when you start the business. You have to be determined to get through them. And like I said, try and build a team that gives you the support to keep pushing. So to be that leader, you never have to lose sight of that, if I'm honest with you, Mark. The DNA, what really drives you. And winning the awards lately for the UK manufacturing, that is who we are. Strip all of the, let's say, the commercials and the sales and all the rest of the jazz behind it. Strip all that away. What we really are is a company with a passion and a desire to do things better, and always challenge. Even now, you win, and some would say that we're successful at what we do. We can still do things a hell of a lot better. So it's my job really, and out of Trevor and I who own this business, it's my job really is to instill that DNA every day. And some people think that I'm, maybe a little bit more determined than I should be, but just to highlight what we can and can't do, and make sure that everybody's on track with all of that. That's my job. So, and I really enjoy that, right? That's why I started the business. And the challenges that we started with are completely different to the ones that we have today. So again, as a leader, just accepting that, every day is a school day, really. Keep 100%. Learning, keep pushing.
And I think what you've really well described there as well is almost the difference between leadership and management. The fact that it is what you manage and you coach people, but I think that's it. True leaders have that vision and that purpose, and by the sounds of it, that's never changed from day one for you, which is important.
No, and bizarre. There's like a few key points in there. Bizarrely, that things happen subconsciously as well. When you're programmed, I don't have yes, I do have a chart on the wall, and I keep everybody motivated around that in terms of the long-term strategic decisions that we make. But, I can cast my mind back to having the discussions with Trevor, my business partner, when we started, and wanting to create a global business. Now, did we kind of hatch a plan and really sort of analyze and break it down and hit milestones to achieve that? Absolutely not. There was a lot of it was organic. However, I do believe that we were pre-programmed to do this, so a lot of the decision making that happens is quite easy because it's already been seen. It's already subconsciously already happened as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just sort of fulfilling, if you like, the opportunities that are presented.
Yeah.
I know that sounds quite deep, but things happen for a reason, really.
100%. I think that's it. That's belief. I think that positivity, I imagine, just goes through the whole business now because you set the tone, I guess, on a daily basis.
Try to.
Yeah. It's
like I said before, Mark, finding the right people to surround yourself with is probably the biggest challenge of growing a business, and trusting that message is continually, relayed to the team. And I would suggest that a long-term, a medium-term, and a short-term agenda, short-term being how we deploy things on a daily basis, what the tactics are. That's the real kind of challenge, probably where we are as a business now, is forming that management structure and making sure that everybody understands where they actually sit. Yeah. Are they dealing with daily things? Are they dealing with medium-term strategies? Or we're really sort of visualizing, where the market's going to go and how our technology fits in and what we should be doing next.
Yeah. So if you take it right back, I think it's really interesting why people start businesses, and almost if you can remember what your mindset was at the time. I mean, how many years ago did you think this is what I'm going to do, or was it an opportunity that arose you couldn't say no to?
Yeah. So my story, Mark, and obviously from a personal perspective, I grew up in both my mother and father ran their own businesses. Mm-hmm. My father was third generation in his business. It was a haulage business in Newcastle. And, my upbringing was always assigned, let's say, or the activities were always assigned around what we could and couldn't do around business.
Yeah.
So, for example, a summer holiday would be a last minute, probably a week, very rarely a fortnight. When the work died off for my father, we would just jump on a plane and go and grab the time when we could. So if you like, my mindset was always around how business operates. Uh-huh. And again, I suppose from a subconscious perspective, maybe I was programmed at a very early age of, how to act and where the value is in conversations and, just how to conduct yourself around business. So roll the clock forward, when I was 16, I left school at 16. I didn't take any A levels. I kind of, dare I say, I scraped through the GCSEs. I enjoyed school, but I always felt like I was programmed to do something else, probably like a lot of other business owners. And I got a job. I came out of school and I got a job pretty quickly. It was just as Apple Macs were starting to become the tool of choice for desktop publishing. Yep. And I was lucky enough for our school and our art department to have an Apple Mac, and it was it was a jewel, right? I remember specifically it was locked in this metal cabinet. You had to turn up at a particular time to operate it and all the rest of it. It was one of these little Apple Macs. You might recall them with a little black and white screen.
Yeah, remember it.
So yeah, the user interface wasn't great, and you could get into things. So the first job that I took was a company down on the Team Valley, and they took me in as a pre-press operator. So essentially, what we do is we take designs and we re-engineer the color separations fit for use for any type of printing press. Okay. And our speciality is specifically something called the flexographic print process. And that print process is probably the largest, or it's the print process that is used mostly for packaging printing, whether that's cardboard boxes, labels, flexible packaging. but it's the most robust, let's say. And today you can drive some fantastic quality through that print process, and of course most economical. This particular company had just invested in an Apple Mac. They didn't have a clue how to switch it on, load the software up or anything. And me as a spotty 16-year-old kid just leaving school, yeah, of course you do. You just switch it on, right? Put the disc in and we'll load the application. And I think these guys were like, Christ, this kid's a genius. So I got that job and I settled in there. What a fantastic time I had with colleagues who are a small unit, and really, Mark, that business, it had some great contracts. We used to manufacture artwork for Procter & Gamble, so brands like Ariel, all of the fabric care stuff, they call it. Yeah. So Ariel and all of the certainly the European brands we used to develop, all sorts of bits and pieces that these guys used to do. Small team, but the work ethic there, and particularly back then, it was quite unionized. So I was really lucky to get in, first and foremost. But once you were in, and we used to work very, very hard, a lot of overtime used to go on. So we're quite a strong bonded team, I would suggest. And that really kind of fit with my work, I suppose, and again, looking back, it wasn't something I chose. I just fell on my feet, I guess. Yeah. Trevor, my business partner, who is now, he was an operator, doing the same stuff as what I did. In fact, he trained me to do a lot of the stuff back in the day. Yeah. And our story really is, probably I was about 19 or 20, the company took over by a large group, and they were only really interested in the corporate side of the business. So like the Procter & Gamble contracts, etc. They were interested in driving that type of business forward. So that left a lot of local printers who had used this company for services, left them by the wayside in a sense. So there was a great opportunity for maybe a couple of us to split off and go and service our local market. And that's what we did. So it was 1996. I was 21. Yeah. I was still a lad about town type of thing, young, free, single. Yeah. Living at home with my parents. And we wrote a business plan, Trevor and I and another guy. We wrote a business plan from my bedroom.
What was it like? What was on there?
Oh, it was very, very naive.
Because I remember, mine was, it was like a page long. Yeah.
Very naive. Try to do the best we could with it, but I mean, crikey, you've got no clue really, and I think it's the best way, to be honest with you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you wrote a script for somebody who was starting a business now and said you're going to go through this, I think it would probably put at least half of them off, wouldn't it?
I agree. Yeah.
So very naive, and I remember turning up at our first bank manager meeting. So opening an account with Barclays, and we said to them, right, okay, we want to borrow some money cash flow wise, and this, the first bank manager basically said, get yourselves away back to work. Yes, yeah, absolutely ridiculous, because we were earning really good money back then. Like as a 20-year-old kid, I was getting paid as much as a qualified doctor for doing what I was doing, and obviously the hours that I was doing. It was serious money. So this bank manager on Grey Street in Newcastle, Barclays, said, you're off the map type of thing. Get back to work. Just think of what you're doing, earn some money. We actually had to go back and sell ourselves to another division of Barclays down at Region Centre in Gosforth, who eventually said, right, okay, we'll open a bank account. You seem determined. We'll support you and get on with it. So that's kind of where it started, to be honest with you, Mark. The first month we turned over something like 460 quid. Yeah. We had borrowed best part of £400,000 to buy machinery. Yeah. And the accountant, after the first couple of months, said, right, guys, this isn't working. You need to, you need to pull your finger out. Yeah. We're kind of sitting waiting for the phone to ring. It was just, just
fly by seat your pants. Yeah. I think those are days you reflect on, don't they? And you probably learn more lessons in those days than you ever did since.
Agreed. Toughens you up. I
Yeah.
remember, being super proud because I had a business card with director on.
Uh-huh.
Director of what though?
Yeah, yeah.
Director of 400 grand worth of debt.
But it's at the same time that you still took a big risk there. Yeah,
Yeah.
say you could have stayed where you were and good cash and so and I think
Yeah.
there's only a small percentage of people would have taken that risk. So it's there must have been something in you, like you say, your upbringing, your entrepreneurial whatever that led you to go down that path. I guess, was it?
Yeah, I think so, and I think I mean, even today, everybody's motivated by money, of course, but I don't turn up and count the cash every day. That's not what I do. The way I like to run the business is, it's a feeling for how well are we performing, and eventually when you get to the level that you've got the confidence that you're performing really well, then you can start to demand a bit of cash. And that's where your profit and your margin comes from. I think there is a danger of starting a business and just having the priority is, dragging cash out of the system.
Yeah.
And they're probably the businesses that really fail, the ones that don't add value, that just try and, just drag cash out. It just doesn't really work, especially in manufacturing.
And that gets back to your purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like if your vision, your purpose is stronger than your cash, in terms of you just wanting to take money out, then I say they're the businesses that fail.
Yeah.
So I imagine you had to make some tough decisions for
Yeah.
yourself financially in those years to keep believing in that vision.
That's right. That's right. And creating some good solid roots and obviously populating your mindset into the industry so people understand who you are and what you stand for. And the reason why they turn up and place an order with Reproflex3 today is, winning manufacturing awards and all the industry awards that we go for and our customers go for and all that jazz. I'm a great believer in get the right marketing out, and it's it takes a lot of pressure off the sales part of it.
100%. I think that's a change that I'm slowly seeing, but I still think manufacturing is well behind the times of that. But actually, for companies, that's currently now an advantage because it is an easier way to stand out because there's still not many companies doing what you guys do, and winning that award is massive. It's you won the Made in Northeast Awards, you won the Made in UK Awards, which is fantastic. But it's an external, but it's also a great internal message, isn't it? That you take the business seriously, you take those awards seriously, and the praise comes from it because it's to be part of, everything you talked about so far has been part of, even when you were starting out, it's been part of a team, being part of something. I imagine that's still very much the case now that within the culture and the DNA, I guess.
100%. And just, I think as the business gets bigger, obviously a lot more opportunities come your way. Picking those right people. Honestly, I mean, I know you've got a business around helping businesses do that. It's critical now. I can't do everything. And even the people, and the landscape changes pretty quick as well. You have to be on the ball and you have to be sort of feeling it all of the time and sense checking, right, have we got enough resource in this area, and being brave enough, quite frankly, to reshape when you have to reshape as well. And then chuck in the international theme to it all as well. Really difficult, to be honest with you, Mark, from a short, medium and long-term strategy perspective, because really as at arm's length, you can only ever be medium to long-term, and it's only really when you visit these facilities, like the last couple of weeks, I've been out to Dubai and into India, you actually see what's going on the ground. It's very easy to cast a view and an opinion just by looking at numbers and a few team calls, etc. But by visiting the region, by even just visiting the region and seeing what the, let's say the tone of voice is, for example, I'm flying to Dubai and on Emirates, they always have, if you're not watching a movie, they'll have like an interview with some senior business leader or something from out there, and they're always promoting obviously what happens next in Dubai. And this particular guy's telling obviously the interviewer that over 1 million new housing units will be developed in Dubai this year. So what does that mean? It means, I don't know what the average population is of a unit. I mean, out in Dubai, there'll be a lot of them that'll be standing empty for a short period of time. But there's definitely going to be more footfall. More footfall is more FMCG. More FMCG means either more imports or local manufacturing.
Yep.
You know, case point, that's exactly why Reproflex3 are there, is because that region is turning into a superpower when it comes into, you know, the FMCG. It's tipped to be the next Europe in the next 10 years in terms of holiday destinations for Europeans. There is a big industry coming up out there. We need to be part of that. So just by visiting the region and going and seeing what's happening and getting the tone of the voice from even local manufacturers, everybody's kind of painting or validating the picture that you can create. You can't get that over Teams, and you can't, you know, there's something about that. You've got to sense it.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think, you know, you talked about getting people in the business and I guess those dynamics changing. Do you still yourself, and you enjoy the role where it's you looking for those new opportunities all the time? It's you needing and wanting to go to Dubai to understand that? Or are you at a case now where you've got people around you and that's very much a shared part of it?
I think we're still early days. I mean, that's my vision, is to get a team around me who can do that. What I would suggest is probably the relationships that I've built up inside of the industry, and obviously let's say the position that I hold, I can more or less have a conversation with whoever I want about whatever I want inside the industry to a certain degree.
Yep.
And that obviously then allows me to figure out, you know, where the best place R3. I think that's the challenge, right? And especially if you're coming from outside of this industry, because it's a very tight-knit industry, first and foremost. If you come from the outside, you have to win trust, right? I mean, that's another fundamental of growing a business, winning that trust. And that's not, you know, my tact isn't to sit and grill somebody and find out what they're doing and trying to weave my business into their business. My tact is really just to be part of a community in a direction, in a movement. And I also believe that a lot of things are about timing as well, Mark. You know, there are opportunities that we can get involved with today and accelerate the business. But again, are they real, true opportunities that coincide with our DNA, coexist with our DNA? And what I do know and what I've experienced in the past is if you pull or push too hard in a direction away from who you really are, then, you know, the team behind you aren't really engaged with that, and it just becomes churning numbers, and eventually that kind of ends. So just being patient with it all and picking the right people. But that's the phase that I'm at the moment, Mark, is just building that team out, and a little bit more of a global structure as well. Again, you know, we're a northeast based headquartered business. It's very easy to sit here and be a UK, even northeast business with a northeast mindset. To the point where lately I've been building walls inside the facility to try and separate who's working on the global stuff and who's working on the local stuff. Right. You know, so yeah, we're just in that phase at the moment, Mark.
Exciting though, and you're someone who comes across that you can see that passion. And I know it is exhausting traveling, doing that aspect of it, but I imagine you also come back with a, you know, energy and you know, to
a plan.
Yeah. Exactly that. Once you've had a good sleep, but the difference in culture there, like you say, the different factories and clients and sites you'll visit, I'm sure that impacts in a positive way the business there. Yeah,
100%. You know, I think just that, particularly going out onto this trip, it re-energized the reasons why we went there in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, despite what happens in the short-term plan, the medium and the long-term strategies were bang on. They were bang on when we started it. They're bang on now. It's just about time, and it's just about making sure that we've got the right team around us at the right time, the right moment in time. And you can't push too hard. Sometimes you just got to let it come to you. As long as you're set up right, it'll come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes again, Mark, developing some of these technologies, I do find that we're ahead of the sun. The sun will shine on these projects, but we're just too far ahead in our thinking, in our mindset. And that's another quite important thing when you're on the cutting edge as well, is just making sure you just drop in your idea and your technology at the right moment in time, just when somebody's about to switch a light on for that particular aspect, and then you can take the moment. Some of the stuff that we've got going on, we've had it going on for a few years now, and it will come really good. And of course, that'll be another strength to the business. We're pretty well set up in that aspect.
Yeah, exciting. I'm interested in the dynamics a little bit as well, because I interviewed Nima, the MD of Prima Cheese, last week. I'm sure you probably met at the last event. And obviously that is a family-run business, obviously co-founder with his sister, and he talked in detail about how that works. And I think it's having family in the business can be a challenge situation. It can be a really, really positive situation. He just talks about how positive it is and how much it works then. But your wife also HR manager, Nicola, is that right? Is that something that's just worked over time, or do you have rules where no chat at home? Because he had very, very good, strict, positive rules, and I found it really interesting.
Right.
I don't know if you have the same.
We are absolutely not disciplined like that. I mean, my story, family and business, of course, I grew up in a family-run business, so very, very different. So my father, like I say, third generation. My granddad ran the business before, and my great-grandma founded the business. And the business was life, right? We actually lived probably about 4 or 5 houses away from my grandma and granddad. And the garage, the business, because it was an old generational business, the garage was actually behind the houses. So the trucks used to run literally past the front door every morning on the way out, and obviously on the way back in again. So every conversation was around business, right? How many holidays are you having? You've had too many, and just general family bickering. all of that. So my story around family and business, like I say, it's never really been an issue.
It's fine. Yeah,
I've never had anything different than discussing family business.
Yeah.
Whether that's healthy or not. I do sometimes have to cut it though, when it gets a little bit too intense. I'm just like, we need to pick this up later. My head needs to go somewhere else. I'm burnt out now.
Yeah.
And I think Nicola's the same. I did have my sister in the business as well. So she joined us, I think it was probably around 1999, something like that. So we're a couple of years into the business. The business was established and we needed a finance manager. And Julie joined us. She was looking for an opportunity. She was a finance manager at Newcastle College, actually, back in the day. A couple of years older than me, and she joined the business. It was great for me, again, because I could, have a social. Somebody you I trust. Numbers are an important thing, right?
Yeah.
And when you need to know, you need to know. It's not like you can turn up 9 o'clock. I wait till 9 o'clock in the morning. If I've got a thought, I just need to know.
Yeah.
And Julie obviously grew up in the same environment as me, so it wasn't an issue to her either.
Yeah.
And that really worked really well. We supported each other. We had a good relationship, although it was a little heated now and again. Of course it was. Growing a business and raising finance and doing what we did. But, it was a real nice family unit. And then 2018, after a short illness, she passed away. So that really changed a lot of things for me. First thing, obviously, from a personal perspective, I had quite a bit to deal with at that moment in time. From a business perspective, we had to fill a gap, which, we tried to get. Well, first of all, Nicola is, well, she's not a trained accountant. She used to work in the financial services. So she stepped in at that moment in time and really kind of, because we were, like I say, pretty desperate at that time.
Yeah.
There was just too much going on.
Still a big business that needs to move the wheels. It's challenging. Yeah.
So Nicola stepped in, and she really kind of helped me and Trevor just to stabilize what we had. We're outsourced. We've got a finance manager in. We got a part-time financial director in as well. But what we found was at that moment in time, we probably just needed to cut back a little bit and just breathe in. We had been running hard for a lot of time. Obviously, losing Julie was a big thing, so we just had to breathe in. So Nicola came in. Nicola's still part of the business today. While she's badged up as HR, she's still very much part of the finance team.
Yeah.
You can imagine, being like a mother to the business, just making sure that there's a sense check on what we're doing, making sure that everybody's, on top, or everything's on top of, and the wheels continue to turn. So, yesterday morning, her and I went for an hour walk, and, anybody standing listening to it would think that we're falling out. It's just views and exchanges, and
it just works.
You just get to a point, you just get the end of the conversation, and just part that and we'll move on. You just deal with it.
I imagine winning that award as well must have felt extra special, because look, and this was a big award. We sponsored the local one, and that was big enough, but the to win it in Liverpool for the UK, when he's the only Northeast firm to win it, it's big. So that must have been extra special, given the
Yes. Mm-hmm. It was. Unfortunately, Trevor couldn't make it to the awards, and I don't know. We've entered a lot of awards over the time, Mark. And did we think we could win it? Well, we're going to take a table full of people there. We have 2 big industry awards, and we kind of splash our marketing budget on them. So this one was a bit like, let's just go and show our faces and make sure that we're flying the flag for the Northeast. And obviously, just taking Nicola down as well was a kind of a Nicola and I'll just go and sign off and make sure that we're,
we have it,
And then we won it. Honestly, I was just like, I can't believe this. I really can't believe it. And then obviously, like you said, being the only Northeast company as well, it was really quite special after all. And I think having Nicola there as well, for all of the work that she's put into the business over the last 4 years, that was a nice moment there for me, if not for her. I think she will always position herself as supporting me in all of this. But believe me, I couldn't do half. Well, you know how it works. I couldn't do any of this without her behind us. Yeah. So it means a lot, and there was a twinkle in the sky as well.
Yeah. It's good to see that it just works. Do you know what I mean? Again, I was really impressed how Pre made it work, but same for you, how you've got those dynamics and it just works for yourself and the business, which are 2 very different things, but the fact they can both work in cohesion, I think is superb. Look, I imagine, own the business for the length of time you've owned it, you'll have gone through various difficulties with recessions, Brexit, COVID, so many things that have battered a lot of businesses, and a lot of businesses unfortunately haven't survived because it's very challenging. How do you prepare yourselves or deal with situations like that in business, where, because everything happens in cycles, right? So there'll be something else around the corner which will test us. How do you deal with things like that?
So if I cast my mind back, every time that we've been, the industry or the economy has been rocked, we've always been at the table with some innovation, Mark. And in our innovation, again, it's about doing the job right, and it's about doing it efficient. So this, the way that I see it is, if you develop a product that can save time, save money, save the environment, obviously a big part of the job today. And generally, it from an ethos perspective, it's right. It's right. It isn't, creating waste, and it isn't doing anything that it shouldn't be doing. Generally, we're pretty well fixed, and I think also investing when nobody else is as well. There's been 2 big growth spurts for R3, and they've both been during these times. 2008, 2009, that was a big growth spurt for us, obviously, as we had the housing crash.
Yeah.
And then through COVID, opportunities have just come at us. Okay, one you could say was just through an acquisition, but just the momentum that we're able to carry through these times, and again, because our products, it's not perfectly placed, but it's very well placed to help our customers to overcome some of their own, operational cost challenges. And that's just our DNA. And there's more in the pipeline, and we'll continue to talk like this about what more can we do. What we've got today isn't the ultimate tool set. It never will be, Mark.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we're kind of approaching market. But what I do believe is we've got a better tool set than anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I say, a bit of investment there, I'm not going to say roll the dice, but just having that belief that the moment in time to take advantage is when the market's down, not when the market's up. It's really hard. The doors are shut, right? Everybody's happy. Everyone's making money. Why should I change? It's when the market's down, you just get in there and you just try and do the best you can. And COVID was a little bit different, Mark. COVID was a little bit different because obviously you couldn't travel, you couldn't speak. And just generally, fight, flight, or freeze. Businesses were just freezing. Just wait. Everything was just about. Now it's fight or flight. I think that's what's going on at the minute. There's a little bit of freeze, but I just think that people are either fighting. And when they're fighting, they're looking for opportunities. Mm-hmm. And then they're flighting, they're getting out, which creates even more opportunities technically.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast for a very quick 30-second pitch of my business. Theo James are a specialist manufacturing and engineering recruitment search firm based in Seaham in the Northeast. If you're looking for any staff or a new opportunity yourself, from a semi-skilled level right the way up to C-suite executive, then please get in touch. We have a specialist consultant in each discipline ready to help. I'm extremely proud of what we've built over the years, and I'd love to extend that service out to you. Thank you. Enjoy the podcast. It's clear as well that your attitude is one of just true belief and passion, which is brilliant to see. And I think there's no coincidence that your business has succeeded through tough times, because you're absolutely right. A lot of companies just froze in those situations, didn't know what to do. But to actually hit things head on, you go right back to your day one, why you started what you started, because you believed in something. And irrespective of what the challenge was in front of you, even someone telling you shouldn't do it, which was probably the case in these situations, you did it. And, it's a calculated risk. I'm sure you looked at the worst case scenario, but that's to some extent. And if you look at your team and the people you work with now, is that something you try to coach and mentor, that level of that attitude, that mentality?
Yeah. I think again, it just goes back to the DNA in the business. So speaking with Trevor's a very different personality to me. And Trevor kind of weights quite a bit of my enthusiasm. Trevor, I would suggest Trevor works more in the short to medium term as well. So he'll deploy and deliver a lot of the vision on the ground and help the team and just keep the team calm on the ground at that moment in time. Whereas, like I say, I'm probably more medium to long term. I do, let's say I pride myself in knowing what happens on the ground. I mean, that's again, as a 16-year-old kid, that's what I did for 5 years. I understood back to front, inside and out, how to do this. And that's why the DNA is pretty strong in that inside of our business. The other thing as well, Mark, is our industry is our industry is like if you imagine we are just a bunch of artisans, right? Traditionally it's an artist's trade. Literally back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, you've got a real true artisan who's reimagining artwork into colour separations, even literally carving out copper plates and making rubber plates from a mold like that. Some of those people are still in the industry, right? I'm 48-year-old now. Some of my competitors, they're run by 60-plus-year-old guys. They've still got that long affiliation with how it was done back then. So in terms of the technology and the belief and whatnot, and I think that's probably where I get quite excited. There's, from a technology point of view, there's a lot more we can do. It's just about being in the right place at the right time and having the right team around you. And like I say, the young ones coming through, it's quite interesting because they haven't seen, let's say, the physical way of doing it. I was right at the back end of all of that.
Yeah.
Just before the switch to Apple Macs and desktop publishing, I kind of was brought up in an industry where it was very much hand planning films and a little bit of artists, had a paintbrush out and you would touch in artwork and do stuff. So yeah, I've seen a lot of that. The new guys coming through pretty quick. So, I don't know, maybe I'm the start of the next age.
Yeah.
The new ones, and hence why we've been able to grow in this market.
Yeah, excellent. And you talk about change. I think manufacturing's and engineering's probably gone through more change in the last 2 years than I've seen an awful lot of time. And challenges, but also opportunities, I would say. I think that there's two sides to it. How have you seen the industry, particularly maybe if you look at the Northeast and manufacturing, how have you seen that change? And I guess, are there any challenges that you've had to overcome or still trying to do so, would you say?
Still trying to do so. I can definitely see the landscape changing quite a bit. I think that the markets are becoming a little bit more consolidated, if I'm honest. I can see VC money coming in, or private equity money coming in. And when that happens, there's a certain level of expectation. I think the inflation and interest rates, I think we're yet to see the impact of all of that. And I think probably over the next 12 to 18 months, I think it could get pretty ugly. How we respond and react, well, only the fittest are going to survive, right? It's the same with any walk of life, and it's no different in business. Hence why, it's so important to keep developing them products and try and take as much cost out for your customer as possible. So yeah, I think manufacturing is it's going to be tough. It really is going to be tough. But if you're a good business, then you shouldn't really have a worry.
Yeah,
it's just going to separate the men from the boys, basically.
Yeah, 100%.
We're seeing it in our industry now, Mark. Like I say, a few of the older guys are starting to tap out. They just, they haven't got the energy to reinvest and reform their business. It's not who they are. It's not what they want to do. Dare I say it, borrowing money now to put into a business, and for what reason? But they're coming to the end of their working life anyway. So that kind of that business comes back into the market, and doors of opportunity open. So there's stuff going to happen, which is really exciting for me. That's where I see some real big growth for us over the next 5 years.
Yeah, 100%. And exactly that gets back to your belief and your vision again. Do you think your motivations have changed from now versus where they were? Or are they still very well aligned?
Pretty much well aligned, I think. Like I say, I think there's so much that goes on a subconscious level now. Yeah. I don't study a business plan. I don't have a to-do list for the next 5 years. I mean, Nicola, I'll tell you, we'll sit down and we'll always do like the next 12 months, this is what will happen.
Yeah.
And we'll get to this point. We never do.
It's nice to have a plan, yeah.
But generally, whatever we want to do, we'll do. Mm-hmm. We've just got to work around what's happening around us.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of that. You have the agility. You got the mindset there. You've also got the agility to do so. And you get back to COVID, perhaps bigger companies with a lot of red tape, corporate, whatever, really struggled because they couldn't make those decisions quick enough, and it was too late.
Absolutely. And even now, Mark, you see the big guys. I mean, most of them are run by accountants anyway.
Yeah.
So if the numbers don't stack up after 1 quarter, after 2 quarters, they're making big decisions. They're not making long-term ones. Mm-hmm. They're not making decisions for the health of their business inside of that industry. They're making decisions based on what the shareholders' value is going to be, and the fact that these big guys who are making the decisions are going to be out of a job if they don't react and respond. That's what I kind of see. I mean, it's not as brutal as that, but definitely there's a massive influence now. And why wouldn't there be? If these guys can invest the money into I don't know, a bond in the US for the next 3 years and make a, double-digit interest rate on that. Why would they be hanging around industry that they can't drag the cash out of? And I think that's where industry can get hurt if we're not careful.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you said about the artisans and that background of it, because it's that creativity and that, do you mean that attitude I think you need to have in business to make a difference and to stand out. And even you mentioned your marketing, we mentioned manufacturing, not enough people do it. It's just have that proactive mindset to go, we're gonna set the trend in our industry because no one else is doing it. It's huge.
Yeah. In an industry as well, I mean, you can imagine the print industry, like I said before, heavily unionized back in the day.
Yeah.
Packaging industry as well. The guys inside of it were protected pretty well. Getting a dynamic shift happening inside of that industry, it's very, very difficult. It takes time.
Yeah.
And of course, and we're surrounded. So the printing press is really expensive assets. You're talking £3 or £4 million for and plus more for and all the tooling that goes around that particular printing press. So that's an asset that is going to be in the system for 10 years.
Yeah.
So to try and change that workflow, you have to be patient. You have to be, you have to work inside of that whole system. But you have to pick your point and you have to work with the right partners to be able to deliver the technology as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of pieces of the jigsaw without just having a great product and just going to market. There's a lot of pieces of the jigsaw that have to come together before you can fly.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part, isn't it? I think it's up down, but I think it's the ugly but exciting part of business where it's just sometimes it's taking risks. You can have a plan, but sometimes it's trial and error, isn't it? It's the exciting part.
And figuring that out, right?
Yeah.
Figure what are those pieces of the jigsaw? I mean, like I said, since 1996, crikey, what's that? 27 years. Is it 27 years? No,
yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, I think we've got a good picture of what that jigsaw looks like. But like I said, you're never really done. It just takes a new piece of technology or a new player to the market or a bit of consolidation here and there, and all of a sudden there's a whole new opportunity that turns up.
Yeah.
And just keeping close to the ground, making sure that you're part of the conversations is the massive part of that.
100%. I've got some quick fire questions. Never that quick fire. Let's have a go. You don't know any of these. Who's the best manager you've ever had and why? And look, because he could be someone that's worked for you as well, man, because obviously 27 years in the business is a long time. But can you think of anyone management that's ever inspired you or in or out with the business?
Managers that have inspired me. God, this sounds. Look, I think the one that springs to mind is the first manager that I ever had. And he was a guy who lived about a mile from me when I was 16. And he gave me the opportunities, right? I could talk to him. And he was the production manager. He later became the site manager or site director for the company down on the Team Valley that I work for. And he was somebody that seen, I suppose, the goodness in people, and if you wanted to get on, he would generally put you in the right place at the right time, and he would give you the opportunities. And he took us through some low times and obviously some high times. And it was difficult actually when I left, because I know that it was tough for him that he had brought me up, and maybe he had a bigger picture for me. But I decided to leave. I mean, at that moment in time, that didn't really enter my mind. Yeah. Just being who I was at that moment in time. But no, he was a great guy. That guy was called Jeff Smith.
Yeah. But I guess him looking back now, knowing what he helped produce in terms of the business you built is testament. Yeah.
I hope that he looks at us now. And Trevor, my business partner, he was his manager as well. I hope that he looks at us now and is kind of proud that we started. or he started us off, really. He gave us the opportunities inside of that business.
And I think that, I still think it's an absolute privilege being a manager, and you always it takes many years to have that feeling of someone you've helped put on the journey. But, I'm sure you've done the same for a lot of people that have worked for you and gone on to do great things, either in or out the business.
I hope so. I mean, everybody's got a personality, let's say. And I hope that whatever people think about me, my intentions are pretty straightforward, right? I want to turn up, I want the business to do well, and I want the people inside the business to do well, me included. And I understand I can't have every conversation. I don't own every penny. This is about pull together as a team.
Yeah.
And I very much see myself as just a catalyst in all of that, with a view and an opinion. And hopefully, as people come and go inside of this business, I've learned to let people go as well. In the early days, I was, it was a little bit offensive, right? You spend time, people come and go type of thing.
Yeah.
But now I've learned to let people go if it's not right for them. I respect that.
Yeah. It's a hard lesson that I completely agree. Biggest influence from business, entertainment, or sporting world? What do you say?
I mean, listen, being a big Newcastle fan at the moment,
yeah,
you know what I'm going to say, but I just think that I'm fascinated with all of that. I've got two passions. I've got F1. I like me Formula One. I like motorsports, and I like football. And more so now, I think with the football, just seeing the whole management structure around it and how it all operates and the impact. Just the impact that one or two people can have on a club, a club of, 55,000 attendant supporters and however many around the world. I mean, can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine? Just, I find it absolutely amazing and fascinating. Yeah. And, just having the ethics that obviously Eddie Howe I'm talking about here, but somebody like him coming into the club and just being really determined to, put his DNA in place, and it's the amount of non-negotiables that he'll have, but also the adoption rate that he's got of his philosophies is, it's almost 100%, right? I don't think there's any player that's come out and said,
unbelievable.
That. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the interview he did on High Performance was sensational. So many things you can just listen to and take away. Just solid, good management. Like you say, just come back to principles and standards and people holding people accountable to those standards. Yeah, I completely agree. And he was inspiration even for a Chef Wed fan like me. I thought that was quite inspirational. Three things to make up a good leader. Words, anything that comes to mind.
Well, I think transparency is one, right? What you think. You have to say it, whether it's right or wrong in the moment, even. I think you have to say it because I think people need to understand who you are and what you stand for. I think trust as well. Trust is a massive one. You have to trust in the people and you have to trust in you.
Yeah.
And then I think sharing as well, from a leader's perspective, sharing their experience, even, obviously sharing the, inverted commas, wealth to a certain degree. Everybody has to take a piece of the cake home. So, yeah, that's kind of how I see that. Yeah. Definitely.
What's more important, would you say, the academic route or on the job learning? You can be controversial, Ronald.
Yeah, controversial. And listen, I'm learning a little bit more and more like this. So I've never been a one. There was when I lost Julie back in 2018, there was a big moment in my life where I started to question a lot of things, who I was, what part was I playing here, how can just like that your life be turned upside down, and lose control or not have control of that situation. And I don't mean this, maybe it's not the situation, but more about losing control of my mind and the thoughts that I was having at that time. So at that moment, I started reading, and I trying to understand what goes on, and not necessarily just with me, but also people around me, and and just trying to make sure that I'm not missing something here. So if something does hit me again, then at least I can try and associate something with it. So from an academic perspective, if I didn't do that, then I think I would turn up at these situations, maybe act a little bit different. So I'm definitely a different person now, a lot different than what I was back then. However, I think that if I sat and read a load of books about what I should and shouldn't do, then I wouldn't have done half the things I've done.
Yeah, it's a nice balance. It's almost like, because now you've got the experience, it's almost going back and putting the theory behind some of it.
Right.
What do you think? Yeah, it's interesting.
You know what? You do hear about people who will go to college after they've retired from work and just, sort of relearn and stitch, like you say, stitch it all together. And I think I'm probably one of those people. I was just so determined at 16 to get out and have a life and earn money and eventually obviously end up with a business. Maybe I've just missed a trick there. And maybe there is just a balance. I just opened the bandwidth off on experience, and now I think I'm just closing that down again, and I'm just starting to open it up on just gathering other people's knowledge and insight.
What I find fascinating though as well is that I would say the bulk of managing directors or co-founders that I jump on here with and or speak to, the bulk of them didn't come through an academic university route. The bulk of them came from shop floor or some just worked their way up and either worked their way up in that business or saw an opportunity and had that in them. And I still think that is almost like a hidden gem that needs to be talked about more, because there's a lot of people who aren't, the academic route isn't right for them, and they might end up getting stuck somewhere in a dead end job because they've done a geography degree with a 30 grand debt, and they end up in a role that doesn't really suit them, where they could have taken the time out and had maybe 2 or 3 years where they've gone through different jobs and worked out what's right for them, what's wrong for them, but found something that fits. And then, because there's so many unbelievable stories like yourself from the people in this industry, in this region, that are leading very successful companies, which didn't come through a traditional, you must do this route to be successful, which is, for me, it's a bunk that needs, it needs debunking. It's a myth that needs debunking. It just makes no sense, does it?
I agree. And I think one of the big lessons that I've learned is, you talk about stress and maybe, like I say, from a personal perspective, I've just pushed through a lot of things, but stress is designed to wake you up, right? It's to make you change before you kill yourself, not literally kill yourself, but kill the situation. And I think stress is your friend, right? Because it keeps talking to you and it keeps telling you things. And I think once you learn to listen and understand what it's telling you, for, like you say, for those people who are stuck in them dead-end jobs, potentially stressed, and I can't get this and I can't get that, and I've just got to turn up, and maybe they turn to different things than changing their careers. That's probably maybe that's the missing link there. It's how do you deal with stress?
Yeah.
And I mean, like I say, stress can be a good thing.
Yeah, because it's a message. Exactly that. Your body's telling you something's wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you don't listen to it, it turns into chronic stress. And then that's when, physically it can drag you down, as we were talking about earlier, doing the fitness will help you to motivate that. But I think, like I say, just understanding what's going on around you and how you feel and how you're thinking. And Chris, we're not here for a long time. You've got to get on. You've got to make the decision, right or wrong. And you know what? If it's wrong, believe me, we've made me personally, I've made a hell of a lot of wrong decisions. A hell of a lot. Same. Thankfully, I'm still here to tell the tale. I don't know how, but I'm still here to tell the tale. Yeah. And I don't consider myself incredibly successful. I'm pretty well rounded now. I would, one of the things, the way that I would describe it is probably over the years, I started off as this boulder with all these bumps and bashes on and all the rest of it, and I'm kind of just chugging from one, decision to the next, and nothing's easy, and you just keep And then obviously through the years, those bumps and bashes, they all get sort of rounded off. And now the boulder just moves a little bit easier.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it. You just start to learn to fit with, with society, I suppose, whether it's inside the industry or just generally.
And you're never going to sit there with regrets. And there'll be an awful lot of people, unfortunately, get to retirement stage or whatever and think, you know what, I wish I'd made those decisions. Yeah. I've wasted however many years. And unfortunately, so many people still do. They really do.
Yeah. The only, I'm not going to say it's a regret, but the only downside to starting a business early and having the challenges early is you kind of miss out on a little bit of life. That's not that it's a problem, but the difference is maybe some of my close friends, they had a great life between in the early 20s up to 30 type of thing. I was working till 2 o'clock in the morning and fulfilling projects and doing what I needed to do to get the thing going. So yeah, there is something in that. Maybe I'll get my time later in life, as long as I live long enough. but
that is the reality, isn't it? That starting a business is bloody hard work, and that's why the importance to go back to, and we could talk for hours. So we'll wrap it up. But just to conclude, which I think it's a nice segue into conclusion. You've had that vision from day one. You've from starting the business. You've had that vision and that purpose and that drive, and I think that has never wavered, which obviously has helped the business massively. But you need that to start a business, because you will have some really, really hard days. Management's hard. It's hard. The financial side is hard. It's scary. It's difficult sometimes to put that brave face on and be that leader who has to be the confident one with all the answers. But it's why we do it in the first place, because it's also fun, isn't it? To embrace it. But it is challenging. Agreed.
I think it's almost like a non-negotiable. The failure is a non-negotiable, right? Failure will never happen. And I've never in all of this time have I ever thought that I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
And I think if to be a business leader, I think that's a mindset you've got to have. It's almost like a button over there that you just never get close to.
Yeah.
Maybe people around you. I mean, literally at one stage, I'm kind of getting advice from my accountant. Well, you're a bit close to the wind here. Maybe it's better to do it this way and that way. And I'm thinking, no, we don't create debt. We don't create problems for anybody else. That's not who we are. I'm not going to go there. We're going to battle through this. This is a non-negotiable. We're going to push on. And I think as long as you've got that mindset, even the biggest, darkest clouds, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there's something out there that could come crashing down on us, but on us as Reproflex3. But I just, there's so many, and even now I've got a list as long as my arm with jobs to do inside of here.
Yeah.
So I think it'll just keep plowing on.
Just convey on it. Yeah, 100%. But look, thank you so much, Andrew. It's been a really interesting, insightful journey. Just a real journey in terms of what business is like, and you're someone, as I said before, just shows the passion and drive after all these years where other people probably thinking, I want to bring in the right people so I can take a step back and enjoy. But for you can still see that the passion and the drive is there, which is so important. I think there's so many things that people can learn from this, real tangible things people can take away, and I have. So thank you, really, really appreciate it.
I really appreciate that, Mark. If anybody can take anything from it, then I've done my job today, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate winning the award and being part of the Northeast. I think it's fantastic. I look forward to a little bit more networking, to be honest with you. I want to do a little bit more in the Northeast. Prima Cheese, those guys. There was a couple of other companies that I met through the awards. Fantastic. So certainly I hope that we can keep this network going.
100%. Good man.